I'm coming at you live from our beautiful offices here in New Jersey. If you're watching this live stream, I want to talk to you about an article I just published on LinkedIn about Google store visits, a metric that Google has touted will help optimize Google Ads campaigns for auto dealers. So if you're watching on the live stream, would you just in the comments say hello? Give me a little heads up that you can hear me perfectly, because I want to dive into this additional finding that we're going to add to our research report that we just released last week and why it's important for auto dealers. So I want you to lean in with me just for a few moments. If you're in the automotive industry and you're spending money on Google Ads, it's very important that you take advantage of this new resource that we're going to be providing. Hi, Katie. Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you for just confirming that our technical delivery looks awesome. So if you're an automotive dealer, if you are an agency that serves auto dealers, Carly, what's up? Come on, come in and say hello. Join it. Come on. Bring it in. I want to lean in. I want you to lean in with me. I want to talk about the article I just posted on LinkedIn yesterday regarding the Google store visits metric. Now, why is this important? Last week, we released our research report looking at the outcomes of Google SEM campaigns. And what we found is that the majority of people who convert with a hard conversion, which is a phone call, a lead form, a chat, or a text, or, for example, a digital retailing lead, that the majority of the conversions that identify an individual who's raising their hand are phone calls. By a vast majority, it's phone calls. Dealer eProcess said it was around 67%. Dealer.com said about 85% of Google SEM conversions were phone calls. And when Interactive Tell looked at 1 million phone calls generated by Google ad campaigns, that less than 13% were actually sales calls. Majority of the calls were for service, parts, or some administration. And some, well, the dealer mishandled and didn't really get connected with anybody. So, well, what the call was all about really couldn't be determined. So, what's the new piece of information? The new piece of information, as dealers have been looking at the research report, and you can download that by just going to brianpash.com. When I started looking at more dealer accounts, there is a setting in the Google Ads campaign that says use store visits as a metric to optimize the ad campaigns. Now, there is some gray area on what a store visit is. There's even some wording that it's a modeled store visit, and maybe that's just to stop people from being so creeped out that Google might be able to track their exact location based on their phone. But these modeled store visits were touted as a way to show dealers that Google Ads was working, now watch, to drive people to the dealership to buy cars. Now, under further observation of the data, or if you ask Google directly, can they distinguish a store visit for sales? Were they there buying a car? Or were they there for service? Google doesn't break out store visits in that way. And Google today does not break out those store visits to show a particular revenue amount. Now, why is this super important? Those of you who maybe have read the article, maybe you want to put in the comments. Go ahead, do that right now. Why are store visits metrics for auto dealers not as effective as, say, for a restaurant? Or in my article, I used restoration hardware as an example. And it's important that we lean in and understand this. For example, if a local restaurant decides to use Google Ads to buy the keyword Italian restaurant or Italian restaurant near me, if somebody clicks on the ad and doesn't call the restaurant and doesn't book online, but just shows up at the restaurant, were they there to dine in or pick up food? Most likely. Do people Google Italian restaurants near me to go ask for a recipe about pasta? Do they bring in a broken spatula and ask them to fix my grandmother's Italian spatula? Do they go there to buy flour from the Italian restaurant? No. If somebody crosses into that restaurant's parking lot, they're there to probably pick up food or to dine in. And so, knowing how many people saw a ad, maybe a YouTube pre-roll, or clicked on an ad and then showed up, well, that's a pretty good correlation that the ads were to generate more people to eat at their restaurant. Same thing with Restoration Hardware. If Restoration Hardware, if you've been down to Palm Beach, the new Restoration Hardware facility is amazing. But lean in with me just for a moment, because this is very, very close to this breakthrough thought on why store visits metric isn't what dealers thought it was. You see, Restoration Hardware has amazing catalogs and they have amazing showrooms. If Restoration Hardware decided in the Palm Beach area to buy some Google Ads campaigns and, say indoor furniture or interior design or leather couches, whatever. If they decided to advertise the Palm Beach location to Palm Beach residents, now, most people know it because it's such a huge building, but let's just say Restoration Hardware says, I want in Palm Beach County more people to come to Restoration Hardware physical showroom. If somebody clicks on an ad, goes to the website, doesn't call, doesn't fill out an information form, and doesn't buy something, and then shows up at Restoration Hardware, wouldn't you agree that the goal of that click was to get someone into the showroom, the shop? Now, are people bringing their broken couch or their broken chair or their broken lamp to the Palm Beach showroom? The answer is no, because that's just a sales showroom. If somebody has a problem with their lamp or chair or couch, they call Restoration Hardware. They send them a UPS or a FedEx shipping label. They are told to box it up or someone will pick up the couch and replace it. Not so much for car dealers, though. Car dealers share sales and service facilities. So when someone crosses that geo fence that says this is the dealership's property, how many people are really there for service versus sales? And I share that in the article. Again, the article that I just posted on LinkedIn. Carly said, when used inventory is higher than new inventory on the lot, how do you entice existing customers that bought new to buy used? Well, Carly, that's a tactical question. And I'll pause for a minute because this is an interactive live presentation. And let me answer that. Your customer, your first party data is more valuable than ever. And if your team has done a good job of data hygiene and you're a dealer who've been in business for a number of years, so your DMS, your dealer management system, has a lot of customer contact data. Remember, you can do some data hygiene, append additional email addresses to those customers, and then load them up into Google or load them up into Facebook to do custom audience targeting if your list is large enough. And those campaigns can actually talk to the customers in a language like, hey, our existing customers should know that, well, new inventory is very tight, but we have a great selection of used cars. obviously email marketing. I think the future of automotive retail has to move from email to messaging. And of course, respectfully targeting customers and sending them an update or a message about, hey, you may have heard that new car inventory is something somewhat tight. Yes, it is, but we have a great selection of used cars. So first-party data can help you specifically, Carly, target existing customers with a new message. Now let's go back to the challenge. People who click on a restoration hardware ad and show up at restoration hardware are not bringing their furniture for servicing. They're going there, well, in this particular restoration hardware, maybe to eat and have coffee, but they're there to shop. Not so much for a car dealer. Not so much for a car dealer. So in the article, I bring up some data because I called one of my customers. And this customer has a very, very efficient service operation. Outstanding. One of the best in the country. And I just said, hey, can you look at your data for last month? Because I want the data to be relevant to now. Hey, give me a look-see. How many people last month in August 2021 came to your facility for a customer pay or warranty repair, meaning they physically came, not internal repairs. Somebody buys a used car, they put a little money for reconditioning and okay, no, just clean customer pay or customer warranty work. And for this dealer, 4,000 transactions, customer pay transactions in the month of August versus 400 cars sold new and used. And I do the math in the article because this dealer said that, now that's a 10-to-1 ratio, right? So we all should know that that's a 10-to-1 ratio. But then I asked the dealer, well, what percentage of those customers waited? 63% waited for their car. The other 37% came back later. So when I did the math, for this dealer, there was approximately 5,500 visits in that dealership in 1 month for service and about 1,500 for sales. 1,500 shoppers resulting in 400 car purchases. Now think about it. If you're using the Google Store Visits metric to optimize your sales campaigns, not your service campaigns. You understand it's a dirty metric because you're telling Google optimize on this outcome, but this outcome is almost 4-to-1 for service. Same thing with the phone calls. Travis asked a question, and let me see, I'll put this right up on the screen here. Okay, how do you effectively use DER if new vehicles have market adjustments over MSRP? In your book, you mentioned that most dealers do not even put their addendum on the DER tools. Is market adjustment something that has to be added? Wow, that's a great question, Travis, and smart family, by the way. Travis, we have absolutely a problem in the automotive industry. For dealers who are doing addendums or over MSRP, digital retailing fails. Now we know, that depending on the car. I called a friend who is an Audi dealer for my niece, and he said, Brian, I love you, but cars are so tight, 500 over MSRP. I was at a Mercedes-Benz dealership not too long ago, and there was a $180,000 AMG G-Wagon sitting on the showroom, and they said this car will sell for $225,000, $50,000 over MSRP. Okay. When we fail to disclose the selling price of vehicles properly, digital retailing fails, right? They're going to have a disappointed experience. So yes, we need to address that. Bob Lanham, hey, you got a question here. Great. Amen on dealers using their first-party data, CRM, right. It's absolutely critical. And that's why, Bob, even though you are Facebook's automotive liaison, you've been very truthful You've not been a Google basher or any other basher. It's like, look, first party data works. And well, guess what? When you use first party data on Facebook, we found that the sales outcomes, what I call cost per sales opportunity, a real sales opportunity, not somebody clicking on the ad and calling for service, the CSO is cheaper than Google. And here's the reason why. Google's a navigational tool. And this is so important when you think of store visits. If the dealer is following Google's playbook that buys their own name and buys Honda dealer near me or Honda dealer or Honda, well, understand what this data on store visits is showing. 3.6 times more people come on this dealer's lot for service a month than sales. Why is that the case? Well, because instead of doing more sophisticated ad targeting or using first-party data to filter through to in-market shoppers, they're just spraying and praying. But guess what? Variable ops or sales is paying the toll. And this is why I'm urging automotive agencies and auto dealers and marketing managers to consider testing, eliminating call conversions and store visits metrics out of sales campaigns for optimization. Think about that for a minute. If the majority of the phone calls are for service and parts and admin, and if the majority of store visits are for service, why would you pump those outcomes to optimize your sales campaigns? Now, what are some solutions? Well, in November at the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, I'm going to be offering a number of workshops as part of the program ticket, understanding how to inspect your website to make sure consumer engagement and shopping activities are being tracked. And then I'm going to be doing another workshop on how to build modern sales goals that can be used to optimize Google Ads campaigns for sales objectives. But what you will see is that I'm not recommending today store visits or phone calls because they're too skewed to service outcomes. Now, I'm hoping that the team at Car Wars, the team at Interactive Tel, and if you missed the news yesterday, Call Review purchased the automotive assets from Call Source. So Charlie Bass and his team and Anthony and his team have a lot of work to do at Call Review. But I'm hoping that they will leverage their technology and integration with Google Analytics. So when somebody does a click the call from a Google ad and it hits the phone tree, 1 for service, 2 for sales, 3 for admin, that event gets sent into Google Analytics with that Google Ad Session ID. So we can now create a goal that says sales phone calls. Now, we can do it for chat. Great companies like Gubagoo and CarNow and others separate events in Google Analytics. They'll say lead sent for service or lead sent for sales. We can separate chat and text, sales and service. We can do that now. We just haven't been able to do it with phone calls. As soon as somebody shows a scalable solution that will allow us to feed back into Google Ads just sales phone calls, then we'll be more than happy to add that to the optimization engine. But the way I see it, and I open for any challenge to this theory, that why would you put in outcomes that are so polluted they are not representing the sales objectives? That new and used car manager is giving you money to get more shoppers. Now, is there something you can do right now? Absolutely. In my article, I show a framework, a graphic of what you should be doing. Google Analytics allows you to have 20 conversion goals, and a combination of hard and soft conversion goals can be established for any website platform, for any digital retailing platform. And if you feed in these sales outcomes, guess what's going to happen? Google's smart. They're just going to give you more people that look like that or do that. For example, what do I mean by a soft conversion? If somebody goes into your digital retailing tool, maybe they're going into CarNow's digital retailing tool and they click between lease and finance and they do the slider with down payment and they pick some protection packages. CarNow sends events into Google Analytics that show those shopper actions. Well, you can set conversion goals that show an engaged DR shopper. Roadster has over 200 events that it throws into Google Analytics depending on what people do on their platform. So if we can identify sales leads, we can, and trade-in leads and finance leads. Those are all good to import. Sales chats and sales messages, yep, those are good to import. And then some other things that people do, like downloading the Carfax, that's a shopper intent. Looking at the window sticker, that's a good shopper intent. But it could be playing around with payments. That's a good shopper intent. Those are more pure outcomes of what a newer used car dealer would want to get more of. Give me more people who want to buy a car who act like a shopper. But what the playbook says now is use your phone calls and use the store visits metric. And no one asked the question is, well, am I supposed to be using all my phone calls? Because when I listen to my phone calls, I get a lot more service. Hey, no one really staked out and said, hey, if we're going to use store visits, I get a lot more people per month on my lot for service. Isn't that going to pollute my bidding? And that's all we're looking to do is create a conversation that says, how do we get more efficient with our advertising? And Bob Lanham hit it. I'm going to repeat an observation that I made in our report. And this is super important for OEMs, OEM managers. I'm going to write an open letter to the OEMs sometime in the next week or two, because here's my point. If co-op dollars are meant to help dealers sell new cars, why have you blindly co-opted digital advertising spend that's built on a framework that injects service outcomes to optimize sales campaigns? Were you just sold on the belief that people who click on Google ads are reading the ad? And well, if you put an ad that says lease a new Jeep Wrangler for $399, no one would click on that ad and call for service. If OEM co-op programs are designed to help dealers advertise their dealership and attract new car shoppers and maybe CPO shoppers, then the OEMs better look in the mirror and say, well, why were we sold a bill of goods? Why weren't we inspecting outcomes? Why is the BPE research the first credible piece that just challenges this concept of blindly importing conversion outcomes, regardless of sales or service, to optimize sales campaigns? It's the silliest thing now that you see it. Once you see the data, you can't unsee it. But here's what is true. Google is an effective advertising platform to reach in-market shoppers. Facebook is an effective platform to reach in-market shoppers when the right first-party data or the right targeting is in place. And if you overlay dealers' own first-party data to Facebook campaigns or Google campaigns, guess what you get more of? People who know your business and maybe are interested in purchasing their next car from you, but it's not blindly using first-party data. You need to step up your game to say, well, who of my customers are in market right now to buy a car? Those are the people that are super valuable. You see, we got to get smarter than just thinking that spray and pray. You know, it was so funny when Google advertising first came out, people would yell at dealers and say, hey, television, spray and pray, radio, spray and pray, but only 2 or 3% of the people in market are in buying car. You're spraying and praying, spraying and praying. But if you buy these keywords, man, you're definitely going to get at those in-market shoppers. And no one really challenged that thinking because it sounded so beautiful. All I'm saying is today, here, 20 years later, we're inspecting the outcomes of Google Ads campaigns, and they're mostly for service. And it makes complete sense because unlike a restaurant that doesn't service cookware, and unlike restoration hardware that doesn't tell people to bring their furniture into the showroom to get fixed, we forgot what type of business we're in. We forgot how much our business is dependent on service, and that 3 or 4 times more transactions per month happen for service than for sales. And we forgot to inspect advertising outcomes. So back to the OEMs. Is fixed ops important? Absolutely. But these co-op programs are oftentimes based or monetized off of new vehicle sales. So just like when the dealers give our agency dollars to spend, it's coming out of the new and used car budget. And they're expecting more new and used car shoppers to be delivered. So are we using our own research? Absolutely. I'm working with our team to completely reconfigure and create the industry's first standardized goal set across every website platform, across every DR tool, and import them into Google Ads and import them into Facebook to get more sales outcomes. But what I'm not going to do is follow blindly the playbook that says, well, import the phone conversions. Phone calls are important. Yes, but sales phone calls. Oh, we can't do that yet. And store visits are important. Yes. Can you tell me the sales store visits versus the service ones? Because whatever campaigns brought in the sales customers, oh, no, we can't do that. So that's why you need to read and download the research report, brianpash.com. You'll see a link to get a copy of the report. And then please read the article that I just posted yesterday, challenging this concept of Google store visits. As an industry, for the dealers who are watching, the marketing managers, for the agencies watching, for the OEM representatives, this is not an attack on Google. This is attack on the thinking of how to best use Google for automotive. We are different than the restaurants. We're different than travel agents. We're different than the airlines. But for some reason, people were asleep at the wheel. They were asleep at the wheel. They weren't looking at the phone outcomes. They weren't looking at the store visits outcomes. They weren't making reasonable assumptions on the effectiveness of the current ad strategies. Now, Peter Lito, a friend of mine, former Googler, now at Foundation Direct, said, Brian, I agree with many of the points of your research, but there are ways to make Google ads more effective. And you know what I told Peter? I said, great, bring that to the AAAS Summit. Let's do a workshop. Show dealers how they can craft better ad campaigns. Now, we know long tail keyword campaigns, if someone's typing in 2021 Toyota Camry lease price, that's not someone who's looking to service their car. Got it. So long tail keywords, absolutely. Using first party in-market shopping data, as we talked about, that's available from companies like Cars.com and Auto Trader, or through the Cox Network, through Dealer.com. Yes, that's smart. There are other strategies. Retargeting based on shopper engagement on DR tools, as long as retargeting is available. That's a smart. I mean, there are things that make Google work effectively, but the feedback loops can't be phone calls and can't be store visits because they're false friends. False friends. So, Joe, you asked a question. How do I get a copy of the report? Go to brianpash.com. www.brianpash.com. And you will be able to get the report. And that's as simple as I could make it. And then in the next day or two, I'm going to add another page to the report on the store visits analysis and discussion. All I'm saying is that the majority of dealers are using a playbook that inadvertently or deliberately, you can choose if you're a conspiracy theorist, is optimizing more for fixed ops than for sales. More for fixed ops than sales. And we have to fix that because variable ops, or the sales department, is the one who's funding these campaigns. And that's why I want to invite all dealers, marketing managers, marketing agencies. If you want to elevate your strategies, especially dealers that have internal marketing teams, you need to come out in November to the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit, where we actually push the industry forward. We're not doing the same basic how to run a BDC or what's Google Ads. We're talking about taking performance to the next level. We're not saying, hey, you should be using digital retailing. Yeah, we did that years ago. But now we're talking about merchandising and measurement, which CTAs are the most effective for digital retailing. We're going to talk about operational efficiency, not getting more leads. We're going to talk about getting rid of website forms and, well, doing real-time retailing to double sales opportunities and conversations month after month. We're talking about real things that, well, can help dealers get better. We have people in the field. I can't be more proud of the people who are raising their hand. Kevin Fry will be speaking. Ryan Everson from the Garber Group, 50 plus stores, going to be talking about Facebook ad strategies. Amazing leaders from the PCG digital team, all doing workshops. I'm doing 5 or 6 workshops. I'm leaning in 100% to help dealers educate themselves to sell more cars in a digital age, to be more efficient with their digital marketing. We're going to have the thought leaders of the industry, the largest companies. I'm also really excited for the first time in a very, very long time. We're going to have a senior executive from Reynolds and Reynolds. Recently, you know that they purchased Gabagoo. And so we have a great leader from Reynolds and Reynolds talking about their overall strategy with the Gabagoo platform. So that's kind of a new thing. Of course, we're going to have keynotes from Cox. We're going to have keynotes from Cars.com team. We're going to have keynotes from just some of the great leaders and innovators. We're going to be talking about single point of contact for the sales process. We're going to be talking about, well, the gutsy things that dealer groups are doing to build their own software. And of course, well, the list goes on. Just, you can go to automotiveattributionsummit.com. Automotiveattributionsummit.com. That's a mouthful. Get your tickets, be there. And if you like this content, also, you should know that I'm opening up a special 4-month training class, 25 seats for marketing managers and 25 seats for sales managers. So general managers, sales managers who want to understand more about tactical marketing, and for the manager side, how to manage your vendors and performance better. And for the marketing folks, how to get into the weeds more and have tactical success. Those courses, that 4-month program would be included if you register for the AAAS Summit, or it's $1,500. You can choose to pay $1,500 for the 4-month class, or you could get that for free with your registration to the Automotive Analytics and Attribution Summit. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of changes going on. We're going to be talking about it in November in Palm Beach, and it's a beautiful hotel right on the beach. Awesome place to stay, take a spouse or a significant other, get away, intense learning during the day, and relax at some of the best restaurants and scenes in Florida at night. That's the type of events we do. First class all the way, first class experience, first class education. So for those of you who are watching live, was this important information to you? Can I get an amen for some people? It's like, yes, I learned something, Brian. Yes, I'm going to check with my agency. Are they using phone call conversions and store visits to optimize my sales campaigns? If they are, get them. Stop. Test better ways to import engaged shopping behavior into your Facebook campaigns, into your Google campaigns, to get more sales shoppers. It's almost so simple. It's amazing that no one's taken the effort to document with data and talk about strategies and how to move forward, how to move our industry forward. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you much for all the support that you had. And remember, if you want to copy the report, just go to brianpash.com. Travis, Berridge gives me an amen. The feed sometimes is on a little bit of a delay. So thank you. And that's a capital amen. That means Travis really liked it. Who else liked the observations about store visits? Because here's what I'm going to tell you. Most dealers are using phone calls and store visits metrics to optimize their used car and new car campaigns. And it's a false friend metric. Until we can clean it up, until we can separate phone calls into sales and service, until we can separate store visits into sales and service, why would you be putting polluted data streams into an optimization engine that is very smart? Google's optimization engine is super smart. We've just been feeding it with crappy data. So remember, first-party data overlaid on Facebook, Google, awesome. Using your own data for targeting, awesome. Using on-site engagement data to create more effective shopping goals. It's a great idea. Importing real shopping outcomes, really great idea. And if you want more great ideas, I hope to see you in Palm Beach in November. That's all for now. I got some more writing to do, especially my open letter to OEMs, just challenging them to say, hey, if you really want co-op programs to achieve your business goals, isn't it time you aligned yourself with the right data sets to target in-market shoppers instead of, well, producing most of the outcomes for fixed ops? That's all for now. Thanks, everyone, for watching.